Hey guys, so today we're going to be doing an amazing Spider-Man review. This is going to be a long one. Trust me, I already know, and I haven't even done the commentary. So please stick around and watch to the end because I really did put a lot of time and effort into this. And the day I made this was the day I made the Venom movie. So if you like that, if you like this one, please go check that one out because I actually really like making that one. It's my favorite one I've made so far. Go ahead, watch that. Thank you for watching, and like, subscribe, and comment down another movie you'd like me to review. It can't be in the movies yet, like in the movies right now. I want it to be on DVD so that I can actually get it. But yeah, thank you for watching, and have a good day. So, this is going to be a long one, like I said. To start this off, this movie starts off with, like, Peter playing hide and seek with his dad, right? And this is going to include some of the reason why I don't like this movie. I don't understand why they include his parents. If you watch any of the Sam Raimi films, I don't think they even mention his parents. In the MCU, Spider-Man, they don't mention his parents. I don't know why this movie series tries to make such a big deal out of his parents, because there are comics that they do involve his parents, but honestly, I don't think anyone that has read a Spider-Man comic or watches a film cares about his parents. And these movies make a big deal about his parents, and I don't know why. So, there's that, and then in the next scene after the first scene, it transitions to Andrew Garfield in normal time, which is what we're going to be seeing the entire movie. And the first thing you'll see is he's carrying a skateboard. Now, let me tell you something. Even if you haven't watched a Spider-Man movie or read a comic, you probably know, even though you haven't done any of that, that Spider-Man isn't a super cool guy. He doesn't ride skateboards. He's a nerd. He's a dork. He's what everyone makes fun of, and he gets bullied for that. I don't understand why this movie includes the skateboard. It's something that I honestly am nitpicking. It's something really dumb, but I think it just shows how Andrew Garfield's character is. I don't know if this is for all people. I know a lot of people who have rode skateboards and think they're a cool skater guy, and they're douchebags. And that's what Spider-Man is in this movie. He's a douchebag. And trust me, I'm going to say that word so many times in this movie. So, after they show Peter riding the skateboard and getting in trouble for it, they cut to a scene where Flash Thompson, which isn't actually going to be a big deal in this movie, he's picking on this little kid, and he asks Peter to take a photo. This is one of my first major problems. Peter should be the one getting bullied. I mean, Andrew Garfield doesn't really fit the role in the first place, but they should at least get him bullied in some way. He just gets punched because he doesn't take a photo. And, I mean, it's a dumb reason to get punched, and it's not really bullying. It's just Flash was mad. It's kind of like an anger issue thing. And, once again, I don't know why, but I just wrote he's a douche in this series. And next movie, you'll somewhat feel the same way. I'm not really sure, because I don't remember the next movie a whole bunch, but I do remember some. And then they try to make him dorky again. For some reason, like, they start him off as a cool dude, and then there's things here and there where they try to include that he's a dork again, and it doesn't work, because when the first moment you see a character, it's a first impression, and that's how you're going to remember them for the rest of the time. I don't know why this movie tries to change Peter. They mostly stick with the whole douchebag, but they try to add some dork into him. And once again, after the whole, he comes home and he's talking to Uncle Ben and Aunt May, and they're cleaning out the basement because it gets flooded. That's fine. But Uncle Ben goes, bring up anything else that you feel like is worth saving. So he drops, or I think he drops something, or else he kicks something, and his dad's briefcase comes out, which once again bothers me because his parents shouldn't be a big deal, and these movies make his parents such a big deal. And I wrote, once again, they really try to make his parents important, and I don't care about any of his parents. I'm fine, yeah, they died, okay, cool. This story should be more about Aunt May and Uncle Ben than his parents. And Aunt May is hardly even a character in this movie. She's just a name for you to feel like, oh yeah, that's who Peter's supposed to talk to. And Aunt May's hardly even in this movie. I don't think she even has 10 minutes of actual screen time. And most of it, she just sits there quietly. And then he finds in the briefcase, he finds a photo of his dad and Dr. Connors. And he asks Uncle Ben and Aunt May about Dr. Connors. He goes, "Who is this man that works with my father?" Easy question. He's famous. He's a doctor. He works at Oscorp. He literally was his father's partner. You would think they know who he is. But they start this off by saying, "We don't know who it is." And I'm not kidding you, 15 minutes later, Uncle Ben walks in his room and he tells him exactly who Dr. Connors is. I know this is a dumb thing, and I understand maybe they were just trying to protect Peter, but it's a dumb thing to protect him from. Okay, cool. His dad worked with someone. He wants to know who it was so he can talk to him and ask him about his dad. Why are you trying to protect him from knowing about his dad? His dad was a secretive man, and they established this from the first scene. You don't know anything about him. You don't know anything really about him throughout the entire franchise. And it's dumb. I don't like it. And then on his computer, he has a photo of Gwen. And this kind of bothers me, and I made it into a joke because in the Sam Raimi franchise, the first time he really interacts with MJ is he takes a photo of her. But instead of how Andrew Garfield does it in this movie, Tobey Maguire asked for the photo, and she agrees. In this movie, he just kind of peeks around the corner and takes a photo of Gwen, and the only photo that they have on his computer of Gwen is, which is okay, it was like a team that she's in. But it's kind of creepy because he zooms in on her. He doesn't make it subtle that he has a crush on her. He makes it big and obvious. She's the only person you can fully see in that entire photograph. I mean, you can see arms and legs of other people, but it doesn't matter. He's obviously got a crush on Gwen, and they got to set this off, but they set it off in a really dumb way. And then there's a scene later on in the movie where he goes to Oscorp to talk to Dr. Connors, and in order for him to talk to him, it's like a science thing, and they have like a whole meeting and they talk about stuff. Well, Peter steals someone's identity card. It's not like an actual identity card. It's basically saying that this man made it and he is willing to be able to, he's able to participate in this event. So Peter takes a random person's one because Peter didn't make it. He just wants to talk to Dr. Connors. And when they start the tour, the guy comes in and he's looking for his card, but he can't find it because Peter stole it. And he gets kicked out. And the thing that makes me the most mad about this, not even the fact that he just stole, he laughs about it. This man's screaming and is upset because he just made it into this and finds out he can't go in it. And he doesn't even know this, but it's because some douche teenager just stole his card that let him get into this whole thing. And that makes me mad because that's not Peter Parker. And then also when you notice this, everyone in here is supposed to be in high school, or mainly seniors. This movie is obviously not filled with seniors or high schoolers. It's very obvious because everyone looks like they're midway through their 20s. And high schoolers aren't in their 20s. Maybe some of them are, but most of them aren't. And that's what this movie is obviously filled with. It's another issue that Sam Raimi had. They don't try to make their actors even look like they're in high school. And then after the tour breaks, Gwen Stacy tells him that he just shouldn't be in the tour and to go. And he walks to go and talk to Dr. Connors. And he bumps into this man with a black suit. If you've seen this movie and you haven't watched it recently, you probably won't remember, because it doesn't matter. But this movie somewhat tries to make it matter. He drops this file that has the 00 that his dad's suitcase had. And so Peter just randomly decides, oh, I'm just going to follow this guy, which is dumb. And I wrote, why does Peter take such interest in this businessman? Yeah, the 00 is there, but why would he just follow him instead of asking Dr. Connors, which is the person he went there for in the first place? He just continues to follow this man into a room. It ends and he gets bit. It's fine. The biting scene, I thought about saying something about how it's very obviously Peter could have avoided that by just not touching anything, but it doesn't matter. He got bit, and I mean, that's all I'm really here for, is him to become Spider-Man. So then there's a train scene after he leaves, and basically in this train scene, his powers start to come in, and some dumb person, which is probably a lot like Peter, puts his beer on Peter's forehead while he's quote-unquote sleeping. So then Peter wakes up and just starts beating everyone up for some reason. And then at one point, I don't remember how, but he gets his hand stuck on this woman and just pulls her shirt off. So her breasts and her bra are just sticking out there the entire scene, which is dumb. I mean, I can understand the whole he got stuck to her, but why did he have to rip her shirt off? They're just really trying to sexualize people in this movie. I mean, this entire movie, Peter's just trying to get in Gwen's pants, and it's obvious. Anyways, it is a cool scene to watch, but the editing makes it so hard to watch, because the editing is... I heard that it was by 3 different people, and it's very obvious, because there's different scenes that all have their own version of editing, and some are nice, but this scene was the worst editing out of probably this entire movie. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this entire time, whenever anything happens, they cut their screen to black and then bring it back, and it just makes you lose interest. Yeah, maybe doing it once isn't bad, like him getting up, but every single time anything hits or he does any move, the screen cuts to black, and it's annoying and it's really hard to watch. So then he goes home and he goes to sleep, and this scene's actually pretty fun to watch. It's Peter realizing he has like super strength. He smashes his alarm really quickly because, quote unquote, I think it's supposed to be the spider sense is why he smashed it so quickly. And then he goes to brush his teeth and he squeezes the toothpaste really hard on accident, and then he smashes the handle and he tries to cover it up. And I find that scene actually really, really fun to watch, and it's funny. I will admit, it's funny. It's probably the first actually good scene in this movie, and it's not even like a really long scene, it's a short scene, which is probably for the best, because if it was longer I would say it's a good scene, but it's too long. So then he goes to talk to Dr. Connors. I think it's supposed to be the weekend for this, and they go back to trying to make him a nerd after making him obviously not a nerd in this movie by him supposedly knowing all of the stuff that his father knows. My issue with this is Peter doesn't actually learn any of this. He just kind of writes down whatever his dad has and then kind of makes up his own opinion on what the answer is supposed to be to this whole like mathematical solution. I don't like it. It doesn't show Peter being smart. He literally takes what his dad knows and just puts it, copy and paste it to another paper and kind of throws his own answer at it, hoping that he gets it right. And it's not really him being smart. And in this movie overall, Andrew Garfield, if he doesn't have anything to say and he's in the scene, he just kind of like stares there blankly like Dory did in Venom, or else he just nods his head continuously or just says something over and over again, and it's really annoying. I don't like that, so I say Garfield sometimes doesn't do a good job at all in this movie. I mean, I have a feeling that he's actually a good actor. I've heard that he is, but in this series overall, I don't think he did a good job. And then I said the basketball scene fits the movie because it just completely shows you that Peter is a douche. He's not there to have his power subtle. Great power comes great responsibility. No, he's just there to make everyone pay for what they've done, and they've hardly even done anything. But this movie tries to make it seem like they've done a whole bunch to him. And it also shows Peter just tormenting Flash for really doing nothing but punching him because he didn't take a photo for... I mean, yeah, he did bully, but he didn't bully Peter. And, I mean, he knocks over this girl's paint. And I feel like they want this girl to be a good character in this movie, because they have a lot of, like, shots of her, but she doesn't really amount to anything. Actually, she doesn't. She's just a character in the movie, and I don't like it. And then after this, Uncle Ben's talking to him, lecturing him, basically saying, oh, so you beat him up because he picked on you. That's not the right thing to do. Which isn't, and it shows that Uncle Ben has a common sense, unlike a lot of people in this movie. And then he tells Peter that he has to pick up Aunt May, and I'm fine with this. This is just kind of an excuse for not having to make Peter do that. It's just a reason. It's just a plot thing. It's just for the plot. Peter doesn't need to do this because Aunt May isn't, no offense to anyone who has this issue, she's not crippled, and she doesn't have a mental issue. She's perfectly capable of taking care of herself and just going home from work, or wherever she came from. But Ben tries to make it seem like Aunt May is in the worst situation she ever could be in and is dying, but she's not. And it's obvious because Aunt May is healthy, except for emotionally, because she's upset at Ben's death. We all know this is gonna happen, though. Anyways, after he tells Peter to pick up Aunt May, there is Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield scene, and this is supposed to be Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker. That's what I'm saying. If I say Emma or Andrew or Garfield or Stone, that's who I'm talking about. So these two have the worst scenes together, and they try to make it like a teen, kind of. Like, yeah, some teens are awkward and embarrassed whenever they're with someone they like, but every single scene in these movies are like this, and it's not only this movie, and it's not only when they begin to talk. They're just really awkward and annoying and make constant breathing sounds. They don't have actual words, they just like, it's something really dumb like that, and it's annoying, and it's every single scene that those two have together. And another thing I want to say is Andrew Garfield in this movie gives like model poses the entire time, and it's dumb because Peter Parker's supposed to be a dork, and he's not supposed to be super cool, he's not supposed to be super hot, but Andrew Garfield portrays him like he's supposed to be, and these model poses go on throughout the entire movie whenever he's with Gwen. And I wonder if they're just trying to say he's trying to impress her, but the model poses I don't think any lady would find attractive. Anyways, and then there's a skater montage, which I think is supposed to tell you, like, show you him training to swing and climb without knowing that's what he's supposed to be doing. Because he swings from a chain and he like climbs up this ladder kind of thing. But then most of that scene is literally just filled with Peter Parker showing off skate moves. And my buddy and I, when we talked about this, he said, I wonder if this is Andrew Garfield's natural talent, and he's like, the movie director wants him to show it off, and like that's why the whole skate thing's in put. But at the same time, I thought, what if it was actually in the movie and they made Andrew Garfield learn how to do this, but he learned extra, so they threw in the skater montage with the whole stuff. I don't know. I don't understand why the whole skating is even in this movie, because that's not Peter Parker. And then they have a Ganali device. That's what I'm going to call it, because that's how I remember them saying it. And it's the device used in the end, and they bring it up right after this kind of training montage, because Peter's like, oh, what's that? I saw that in my dad's thing. And, I mean, they don't show a photo of it, so we can't really say he did or didn't, but that's kind of a weird thing for his dad just to put in his thing. Because you'll find out in the next movie, his dad's the only reason. I think the main thing that his dad did was made the spiders. That's what his dad actually did. I think that's all his dad did in Oscorp, besides supposedly build that device, and it's only used for the end battle. Anyways, I said, I don't know why this device is in the movie except for the plot for the end, because it. And if they did that, Connor should have been building that after he figured out the way to kind of regenerate stuff with the lizard stuff, or even make that like Doc Ock's science project in Spider-Man 2. Like, make that Dr. Connor's like science project for this movie. And then there's a scene where Ben gets mad at Peter because he doesn't pick up Aunt May. And even before I talk about this entire scene, I said Peter raging is me. And I'm not saying that I'm a mad person, but I'm saying that's Peter getting mad at every single thing that Ben says is how I feel about this entire movie. Every single thing they did in this movie made me mad in some way, or else I just didn't care. So I just want to add that. And then there is literally no, with great power comes great responsibility. Before Peter stomps off and never talks to Ben again, he says something about responsibility, but I'm not kidding you, it's like an entire paragraph supposed to be talking about it, and I have no idea what he says, because I only caught on to it with his last words because I heard responsibility. I wish that he would have just said, with great power comes great responsibility, because, I mean, Tom Holland literally brings it into the MCU, and Uncle Ben's not in the MCU. He literally mentions it. That's how important of a statement, or whatever you call that is, it is. So, I don't understand why. Actually, I'm kind of mad that they didn't add that into this movie. But, anyways, I understand Peter's rage because, I'm not going to get deep into this, but I've had personal problems where things that people couldn't have controlled make me mad, and it makes me upset that they didn't do it to better others. And Peter gets mad because his dad died even without even giving Peter any childhood. He wasn't really there for his dad, even though Peter cares so much. Not Peter wasn't there for his dad. His dad wasn't there for Peter, even though Peter cares so much. And it bothers me. Not it bothers me. I actually like that human side to Peter. Anyways, we're going to go to the next scene because this is taking a lot longer than I want to. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit. Andrew is more responsible for Uncle Ben's death than Toby was. Peter in this movie basically makes Ben go out and then doesn't stop the guy who kills Uncle Ben. He robs the store and Peter was there, and Peter didn't stop him even though the store guy told him to. So yeah, that's a part of this movie as well. And then I said, why should Peter help the store owner? Because the store owner asked for help, but he was literally just telling Peter he couldn't get the milk he wanted because 2 cents. So I understand the whole reason for him not helping, but it's literally the reason why Uncle Ben dies. And then Uncle Ben yells before he tries to grab the gun that the guy drops. He yells no and then jumps on top of it, even after the guy grabs the gun before he even jumps. Uncle Ben just asked to die. I mean, I understand Uncle Ben has to die for Spider-Man to become a theme in almost every single Sony movie, but it bothers me that he just basically asked for death. And then Peter crying in this movie, when Ben dies, it literally looks like they just poured a whole bunch of water on Andrew Garfield's head and then made him spit a whole bunch in the shots, and it's obviously fake. And if that's Andrew Garfield really crying, wow, man, you are an ugly crier, which is fine. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but anyways, Flash Thompson in this movie, that's the bully, supposedly. He's actually a good character because after Uncle Ben dies, he goes to help Peter. He goes, Peter, and then Peter gets mad, slams him against the locker, which is kind of dumb, but I can understand because he's an emotional mess. He just watched his uncle die in his arms. He slams him against the locker, and he goes, dude, I'm sorry about your uncle. I can understand. And it shows that at least one character in this movie is somewhat good, even though he only gets 2 or 3 scenes in this movie. I actually like him, and I feel like if they had a part 3, they might have been able to do more with him, because I don't think he's even in part 2. Anyways, he becomes Spidey for revenge, not for the good. He doesn't become Spidey because he wants to better New York City, or he doesn't want to better the world. He becomes Spidey to literally revenge Uncle Ben, which is okay, but I don't like it. So the person who killed him looks like almost every single person in New York City is my next statement, because there's a montage where he tries to catch a whole bunch of guys who look like the guy that killed him, and it's obviously played by the same actor, and the tattoo that's supposed to distinguish him literally looks like Sharpie, and it looks really bad. But I just wanted to say that every single person he chases is the same person, and it's pretty obvious. And I find it funny that every single person in New York City basically looks like this man. Anyways, he lets some criminals go, which, yeah, he does that. I can understand somewhat the whole he becomes Spider-Man out of revenge. But then he lets criminals go. He doesn't even try to stop them, even though he catches them doing bad things. He's that hungry for revenge that he's willing to let other people get harmed so he can try to find Uncle Ben's killer, which is not Spider-Man, and it makes me mad. And then one thing I do like about this movie, that the only reason why I like it about this movie in general is because it's the first movie that did this. And Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, he gets his webs just from the bite. And this movie, like the comics, he has to make his own webs. And they have this in the MCU as well. But this was the first movie to introduce that and not do the Sam Raimi way. And I like that. I actually do. And then right after he makes his webs, they show us his suit. And his suit, it's so bad that in the next movie they literally have to change it. Because either everyone hated it so much, or else they just heard comments and understood that obviously that suit wasn't good. His eyes look terrible. His suit is so dark, which, I mean, I guess can represent how Peter is in this movie. Anyways, and then there is a moment where he catches a guy trying to steal a car. He gets him webbed up to a wall. And as the cops are coming, he finds out that he's also not the guy that killed Uncle Ben. And as the cops are coming, he says, "This could have got a lot worse for you." Basically saying that he would have beat the shit out of him, or else would have killed him if he was the actual guy. Which is not Spider-Man! I don't understand how many times I have to say this in this movie, but that is not Spider-Man. This movie is not a Spider-Man movie. It is a movie about a supposed character that's quote-unquote based off of Peter Parker. He is not Peter Parker in this movie. Anyways, another thing I like about this movie, dealing with his webs as well, is in this movie, first one, of course, MCU uses the same thing. He has to actually connect his webs to things in order for him to swing, unlike the Sam Raimi as well. Sam Raimi just did whatever he wanted. And I actually like this Aunt May. I said in Spider-Man 2 that Aunt May wasn't even a good character, and I actually hated her as a character. This Aunt May does bring some emotion to the movie, and, I mean, yeah, she does only get 10 minutes of screen time, which definitely should have been more than Emma Stone's character, because she's just a waste of talent. Not even talent. She's a waste of talent, or she's a terrible actress, and I don't want to think she's a terrible actress. But yeah, that I just want to say that. And then once again, I don't remember what scene this was, but they bring up fucking Peter's dad again, and I write in big capital letters, Peter's dad for no reason in this movie is a big deal. I understand this movie kind of like makes his parents a romance kind of situation, like it must be in the movie because the movie must go on. They only make it that way because they act like they're gonna do something with it. And even in Spider-Man 2, they do somewhat do something with it, but it's not good. They ruined my questions for Peter Parker's parents. I mean, I didn't care in the first place, but if I ever did question it, this movie ruined it for me. So then I wanted to also add, there's a scene where I don't remember what it was after. It must have been after the scene involving Peter's dad. Gwen and Peter at high school, and Gwen just out of nowhere grabs a paper and goes, "Here, let's have dinner with my parents. They're not dating yet. They're not officially dating, at least." And she's just randomly like, "Hey, let's go and meet my parents and have dinner." So he, of course, accepts because he's trying to get in her pants. I don't like this because there's literally no reason except for the plot for her to ask him to dinner. They didn't have really any relationship yet, and I mean, they didn't really have a relationship in this movie. Anyways, Peter meeting Gwen's dad is pretty cringy because some of the lines that other characters say, or Peter or her dad says. But I will say right now, I do like her dad. Her dad's probably my favorite character in this movie, which is really surprising because he wasn't introduced until over halfway through this movie, but he's actually probably the best character and the only person that understands that this movie isn't good and that Spider-Man is not a good person in this movie. I like that. And then there's a shot with Dr. Connors, like, looking at one arm through a mirror and like making it seem like his other arm is the other side of the mirror, and I like that shot. The shot looks really good, and it kind of adds more to Dr. Connor's character, even though it's a very subtle scene and it's a short clip. I actually do like it. And then Doc's arms. There's a scene right after that where Dr. Connors takes the lizard shit and his arm comes back. And his arm is obviously fake. his arm, for one, is like Jello, but it doesn't look like actual human hand Jello. If you saw the photo, you would notice his hands are a lot thicker than his other hand, and he's so pale white, I wouldn't have been surprised if I could see through it, and the veins don't even look realistic. I understand this movie wasn't like 2019 CGI, but it was like 5 years ago when this was made, and CGI, it has improved a lot, but it's not big enough difference that they could have made that look real. I would actually find it funny if that was actually made out of Jello, because it looks just like it. Like I said, Gwen's dad perfectly describes Spidey in this movie as a vigilante with nothing that he doesn't want anything other than just to beat people up and make himself look like a hero. And I like that. That makes me care about his character a lot more, understanding what this movie is, really. And then Peter is actually a hypocrite. In the first like half of the talk, he tries to say that Spider-Man is a good guy based off a YouTube video supposedly that I saw, which we all know isn't actually the reason why. He thinks that he's doing the right thing, but I don't know if everyone else knows this, but us as a viewer should know he isn't doing the right thing. Just because he's in the Spider-Man suit doesn't mean he's doing the right thing. And actually, in this entire movie, he's only doing it for himself. He's not doing it for other people. And then the second half, her dad says, "So what are you saying, Peter? Peter, are you just trying to say that Spider-Man's a good guy?" And he goes, "No, I'm not trying to say he's a good guy. But in the YouTube video I saw, he looked like he was doing the right thing." So you're saying he isn't the good guy, but then he is the good guy. What? Hypocrite. Like I said, I don't like that. Peter's character I hate more than any other movie that they've had Peter Parker in. So after that, they get into this constant, like, the fast talk, what are you saying, the blah blah blah. Her dad says, "What are you saying, us cops just eat donuts and stick our finger up our ass?" And I hate this. It makes me chuckle, but I chuckle because it's so dumb. One of his kids, his sons, says, "Up your what, Dad?" It's a dumb, unneeded scene, which I guess can break the tension, and it makes you smile, but it's not needed at all, and it's like the only comedy you actually get in this movie. And then Gwen and Peter leave, they go to the balcony, and he tries to explain to her that he's Spider-Man, but he fails very much. He just sits there quietly, stuttering, trying to get her to listen to him, but he won't say a thing when he's not stuttering to get her to listen to him. And then she just says fuck it and starts to walk away, and then he grabs her with a web and brings her back and like starts trying to like slow motion dance with her, and it's fucking retarded. And it's very cringy. Trust me, if you've seen this movie recently and you understand what I mean by he's stuttering and won't say anything when he's not stuttering, you understand how cringy this scene is, because you've seen how bad the acting is in this. I actually hate this little duo that they have in these movies of Gwen and Peter, because in this movie at least, they just every single talk, and most of the talks are literally just breathing. It's not anything actual dialogue mostly. But I do like the whole idea of Gwen's dad is against her boyfriend Peter. It does kind of bring an element to the movie that I do like, and that whole thought, I'll explain this later. I gotta speed this up a little bit more. Anyways, the motivational scene comes right after this. The lizard's on the bridge trying to get to the bad guy in the black suit. He obviously, I don't think he actually gets to him, but this dad's kid is stuck in a car, right? And this movie makes this so it's supposed to be a motivational scene, but it could easily have been changed. Peter is holding onto the car and onto the web as well, but there's a moment when he's not holding onto the car and the web. He just has his feet on the web, is holding on, and is getting the kid out of his seatbelt, and he falls back. So then, for no reason at all, Peter just starts to hold the car, And what I want to say right here is Peter could have grabbed the kid and just pulled him out of the car. Instead of making this kid climb through and make the car fall, he probably, could have either just carried the car up with him to save the car, even though it was on fire. It's probably best to leave it in the ocean, but also, like, the whole sea animals are dying shit. That's another topic. Anyways, that could have been changed a lot, and they try to make this a motivational scene. It's really not. I mean, when I was a little kid, like, when this movie first came out, it was cool. Like, a lot of this movie was cool, but when I actually have rewatched this and have tried to pay attention to the bad things, you notice a lot in this movie. After the first transformation of Doc into the lizard, which is right before the bridge scene, I don't care about him anymore because they ruin his character, and just all of a sudden he becomes a mad scientist. He does all of this so that he can help himself, which is fine in my opinion, because he's also doing it for the help of other people. He mainly does it for himself, but it can benefit other people. Peter, everything he does in this movie is just to either, 1, clean his reputation, or 2, do whatever he wants because now he can just beat the crap out of anyone. And then here comes my least favorite scene in this movie. I don't know why this is my least favorite scene because there's a lot of bad scenes in this movie. It's the football scene. So let me explain what happens. Peter and Gwen are talking. She's like, so am I the only one that knows that you're Spider-Man? And he says yes, but the scene before this, Peter takes his mask off for that little kid, for the little kid to trust him. So this little kid knows that he's Spider-Man. If he sees him on the streets, he's probably going to tell his dad, hey, that's the guy that saved me from that car. That's Spider-Man. So Gwen's not the only one that knows he's Spider-Man, which is a huge lie. I don't know why it bugs me so much, because, I mean, the kid really doesn't know who Peter is, but he does technically know that he's Spider-Man. And then my least favorite line of this movie, it's dead silence for a solid 5 seconds, and then all of a sudden Peter just whispers to Gwen, I really like kissing you. Really? I really like kissing you? Why is that a line? Was that just made up? Like, Andrew Garfield just thought, hey, you know what, this would probably be a good line to be in the movie. Well, it does fit the rest of this movie. Really dumb and unneeded. But it's dumb. So that is the end of that page. And so after this, there's a scene where Peter's waiting in the sewers for the lizard, and he's trying to track him down. And the reason why he does this is because he sees a newspaper that says he gets a reward for giving any proof that the lizard was the one who destroyed the bridge, because everyone believes it's Spider-Man. Very cliche, and it doesn't really matter. Anyways, this movie tries to make like a joke out of Peter playing a mobile game. One of those ones where you shoot a dot and it breaks the other dots that are the same color. This movie tries to make that a joke, and I don't know why, because it's really unneeded and it's really dumb, but they do try to make that a joke. And then Peter brings his camera, right, to get proof of the lizard, and the first time the lizard kind of pounces on Peter, it takes a photo, and somehow the lizard doesn't notice this the first 2 times the camera goes off, because it's a bright flash. But when Peter leaves, he gets back on the web, and all of a sudden it goes off. So he takes this camera off the wall, right? And really dumbly, it just has Peter's name right there. Peter B. Parker. Big bold letters. And he goes, Peter. Now this is that line right there. That's gonna be known. That's gonna be needed for later on in this movie. Trust me. That was a dumb scene. Why did Peter just leave his name on a camera that he was obviously probably going to leave if the lizard actually found him? Anyways, that was a pretty big thing in my opinion. And then he goes to Gwen's apartment, which I guess is okay because he doesn't want Aunt May to know that he's Spider-Man. And she starts to clean his cuts, and then dead silence falls upon the scene once again. If you don't know what's coming, I don't know how, because this is a continuous thing in this movie. They get silent, and then they just look at each other, and they just start randomly making out. No reason at all. They just start making out. And I'm like, why do they have to make out while cleaning his cuts? His chest is out and he's bleeding. But no, it's time to make out. And then right in between those not make out, she just randomly says, "Bug boy" or "fuck boy." I can't tell the difference because she whispers it really, really quietly. And if you believe you hear "fuck boy," you'll hear "fuck boy." But if you think you hear "bug boy," it's "bug boy." I think it's supposed to be "bug boy," but I will be honest, she makes it sound like it's also "fuck boy." And then the lizard comes to high school. This is a good scene as well. I only side because there's a few things I don't like about this. Lizard, this is the first real shot we get of Lizard's face. We kind of get a glimpse at what it is before, but this is the first good shot we get of his face. And he looks ugly. I understand he's a lizard and all, but they couldn't, like, if you've ever seen a cartoon, Lizard doesn't look bad. If they made him look a little bit more like the cartoons that they show, he actually might look good, but he doesn't in this movie. And it's ugly. Which is, I mean, it's whatever. It's a transformation into a bug, or not a bug, a reptile. It's fine. I actually think that the high school fight is a really good fight and a really good scene overall. Because even when Peter's saying something, none of it's dumb, and he's just kind of like taunting the lizard, which is what Peter does. This is the first actually accurate thing that they do for Peter. He taunts his enemies whenever he fights them. And the Stan Lee cameo was actually really, really funny. If you haven't seen it, it's not like an iconic Stan Lee cameo, but it is a pretty good one. Stan Lee's a librarian, he's listening to his music, and Peter and the lizard are fighting right behind him, and he just walks out of the library without noticing them, which is pretty funny, and then they go back to the fight, which is fine with me. I'm going to add this little detail at the end of the movie. Hopefully I'll remember to go back to it, so I'll skip it. But I added it only because this movie got boring right after that fight ended. And so there's a scene where after that, the cops are sitting there and they're talking. And they just somehow know where Lizard's going. They say the street that he's going to. I don't remember what the name is because it's not important. But somehow they know where Lizard's going. But they don't know where Spider-Man's going. Spider-Man went down with Lizard, but all they say is Spider-Man was in the high school when this all happened. So once again, they're trying to frame Spider-Man for being the villain, which is fine because the city is right. Spider-Man is a villain in this movie until Lizard really starts attacking, and then he kind of becomes Spider-Man. I mean, not really, but kind of. I find that dumb that somehow they know where Lizard's going, but they don't know where Peter's going, and they don't know that Peter went in the sewers. And then there's like a few moments that I skipped. Peter gets caught by the police after trying to get to Oscorp because that's where Lizard's going to release the lizard shit. And Peter gets, like, I don't know if he has a mental issue or he was just like spasming because he's freaking out, but Peter's like spasming after he takes down all these cops and Stacy's dad stops him from taking him out. He's like twitching the entire time that he's looking at Stacy's dad. And then he's like, "Oh shit, you're Gwen's boyfriend. I can't kill you." And I like that. He realizes that Spider-Man, he's supposed to realize that Spider-Man's not a bad guy, even though Spider-Man is, like, I will admit, I'm a viewer, and Spider-Man's not a good guy. And what I don't like is Peter in this entire scene is acting like he's the only one that can save this city, when every single cop in this entire city is trying to stop Lizard. And if they did what they found out later on in the final battle, they froze him. If they all shot him, I feel like Lizard would have died. Or else, eventually he would wear out, like, this lizard thing would wear out. I don't know. It's dumb. I don't like it. Once again, in a Sony movie, there's a horror scene where Lizard walks past Gwen in, like, this little locker that she's hiding in, and he walks past it, and then he does the cliche, he comes back and he finds her and takes it's this thing that's supposed to spread the lizards around, like the lizard thing everywhere. And I mean, it's okay, but it was very much known that that was what was going to happen. And then the construction scene as a kid always made me like get a tingle inside. So I'm going to put this on the good side of this movie. The scene is where Peter, the son that Peter saved earlier, that guy is a construction worker, and he finds out that Peter Parker got shot when he got away from the cops. So he tries to set out the construction little drone thing, not drone, cranes, that's what they are, and so that Peter could swing to Oscorp, and I actually love that. I love that part to this movie. I don't know why that is what I love. That is single-handedly the best, not my favorite, but that's the best scene in this movie. I don't know why. And then Peter goes to fight Lizard, and for some reason, Connor's unmasked Peter, even though he knows who he is, and then he starts giving dialogue like he didn't know who Peter was. So I have a feeling that some of this script was written late compared to other parts, but that's whatever. I have very little. This is like the end of the movie. So the coldness, I don't know why this is a thing. Like I mentioned, it stopped him from regenerating, and I don't understand how the coldness is supposed to stop them from regenerating. I don't know if this is a legitimate thing. I know that lizards are reptiles that are cold-blooded, so I don't know why the cold stops the lizard from regenerating. It's kind of a dumb thing, but whatever. It's just kind of a nitpick. And after the final battle, he goes home to Aunt May, and somehow Aunt May doesn't know he's Spider-Man, or just doesn't say it. He comes home bloody, looking like he just fought the lizard, and she's just like, oh no. So I think she knows. They don't tell us that she knows, but I think she knows. So I guess I'm alright with that, but I said that if Aunt May doesn't know he's Spidey, she's dumb, which would ruin her character, sadly. And then they have a funeral for Gwen's dad, and Peter was told by Gwen's dad not to date Gwen anymore, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, like a minute or two. Gwen's upset because Peter didn't come to the funeral. He technically did. He was hiding in the church, kind of like watching her, make sure she's okay. But she's mad because he didn't go there, and it's actually the most emotional scene. Emma Stone gave a really good performance talking about this. Single-handedly, my favorite scene from her. A very terrible character had an actually really good scene, the most emotional in this movie. So I like that. And then Aunt May tells Peter that she's a good-looking person and that he should date her. And he goes, I'm not good enough for her, which is true. And she goes, if anyone says that you're not a good person, then they're dumb. You're dumb for saying he's not a good person. Everything in this movie was to help his reputation or make him look like a bigger and tougher person. None of this movie was to help anyone else. The city just luckily got saved because Peter literally made the lizard. Anyways, in the end, Peter doesn't do what Gwen's dad tells him to do. This woman's like, this teacher, I don't remember why, but starts talking about him lying, and she goes, no lies are good, and he goes, but the secret ones are good, or something like that, and it's supposed to hint that Peter's basically trying to hook up with Gwen again, and she starts smiling, and that's the end of the movie. This movie was the second worst Spider-Man movie ever, and the second movie, the first movie, the worst movie out of any Spider-Man movie is coming tomorrow. So if you're ready for an hour of me talking, or me just speed talking, or me having hardly anything to talk about because everything I want to talk about was in this video, go ahead, subscribe and turn on post notifications to watch me get mad at another movie. So basically what I'm gonna say is this movie is probably a 3 out of 10 because there are some good scenes and there are like 1 or 2 good characters. There's 2 good characters. So it's not a 2, it's not a 1, it's not a 4 though, because 4 I feel like it's basically 5. itself is like, it's not a terrible movie, but it's not a good movie. So this movie is a 3 out of 10. My favorite characters are Aunt May and Captain Stacy is what I'm gonna call him, because I'm pretty sure that's his actual captain name. So yeah, my least favorite characters, Peter Parker, sadly, and then Gwen Stacy, because Gwen Stacy in this movie sucks as well. What I do this movie as is if you want to watch Peter Parker but not Peter Parker, that's what this movie is. Have a good day, and I hope you like, subscribe, and comment down below another movie you want me to review that is on DVD. Thanks for watching. Bye.